IVM.
Hello and welcome to episode 16 of The Fighting Goat, where my friend Mystic Chips, aka Arjun Chipalkatti, and me, Somesh Superhuman Kamra, are joining you for yet another exciting episode of UFC 263. A lot more on the old guard and new guard, and what's coming the following week. So, Chips, how was 263? How was your week? How was the weekend? Where were you? Where were you sloshed? Did you fall in some gutter that we were talking about?
No, only my friend fell through a manhole, and I still, this is the funny thing when you have great friends. We don't care whether they're okay. That's the last thing that you wonder. Yeah, acha, पैर टूट गया, okay, how that? But you fell.
Yeah.
You felt like a moron, and you were stuck for 8 hours.
Well, I also remember this one time, I remember this one time where there was an old man that fell in your building, and we had a great laugh over it.
Listen, I'm not going anywhere. People already hate me, and they're out to get me. So I don't want another community coming after me, please. No, so let's come back to the week, man. The week has been great. I've moved to a new apartment.
14,000 square feet house, no?
Yeah, 14,000 square feet. This is not a UFC performance center. You forget we live in Bombay. Have you seen Bombay houses? Seriously, the only thing smaller than a Bombay house is a Hong Kong house.
Yeah,
that's the only thing smaller, and it costs like 16 years of salary to pay for that 1 square meter.
That is just a principal amount. The EMI is extra.
Of course, no. This is a booking amount. That's a booking amount. Uske baad jo hoga, then we'll see. Whatever. So you're signing. I've signed my life away now. So,
absolutely. No, but I love the city. The city is a great place to be in.
Because I've stopped eating also. Because kam khana because of me.
Right. I can see the jawline coming through.
It's coming back. I'm going to be sexy again. You wait. Studio time. No, but guys, quickly, let's get back to MMA because we can keep doing this nonsense all day. But MMA had a very interesting week. UFC 263 was a very, very highly awaited card. We had a great bunch of fights. We had the headliner between Israel Adesanya versus the Italian Dream, Daniel Vettori. We had
Marvin Vettori.
You know what? This is Sudhi's fault.
Yeah, it is.
Daniel every 2 minutes.
In fact, on our Sony show, instead of Marvin Vettori from Italy, he made him the left arm New Zealand bowler Daniel Vettori.
Yeah.
So that was so much fun. And the producer was like, "That's it, Daniel. No, it's Marvin Vettori."
I know, man. It's crazy. It can get confused. But anyway, Marvin Vettori, that was the headliner.
Daniel.
वापस चालू गया ना तेरा. Anyway, we had Leon Edwards take on the legend Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
And man, what a fight that was. God, I still can't get over it. I really still can't get over it, man.
Well, we also had a new champion in the flyweight division when the Viva Mexico, Brandon Moreno.
That was a really emotional moment. It was really,
yes, absolutely.
But speaking of the entire card, that I teared up for it. I really did.
Speaking of the entire card, it started off with this, the Scottish guy Paul Craig versus
Jamahal. Say it right, man.
Craig. Yeah.
Paul Craig.
Yeah, it was Paul Craig. And did you notice that how Joe Rogan didn't understand a single word of what Paul Craig was saying?
He was just nodding like,
he was like, like only that one village in Scotland would understand what he's talking.
Can you imagine a shouting match between Paul Craig and Nate Diaz? Nobody would understand anything. It's completely coded.
Yeah.
We have to get specialists from the CIA.
Yeah, man. But speaking of the opening, the opening fight
versus Jamahal Hill. Yes.
Versus Jamahal Hill, who in himself is a very, very strong contender. But
he's a great striker. He was unbeaten for 9 fights.
Did you see that arm snap back? That was
weird.
It was brutal because honestly,
the overhook that he had.
His
left arm. He didn't let go, and he pulled guard with that overhook. That is such a high-level move, man.
And what I'm beginning to feel that every single event we are seeing some break, some crack, shins breaking, elbows cracking.
The MMA gods have heard us. Because we crave brutality.
We definitely do. But I'm wondering because this didn't happen about 5 years back. are the guys getting weaker, or is it just overexposure, or it's too much training, or it's what exactly is happening?
I don't think it's too much. It can happen. It happened to somebody like Jacare. His arm snapped.
Yeah,
And it can happen. And dude, guys like Frank Mir did it back in the day. Nog did it back in the day.
yeah.
And it happens. I think it happens with very high level BJJ practitioners. Like, you've got the really sportmen, you've got guys like Damian Maya, who if they even hear, who are so well nuanced, when he knows that your arm has moved in a certain direction, he'll kind of stop it as soon as he feels even a little bit of noise,
But in fact, I just went through the tape again, and the moment Hill's arm actually snapped behind, it was Hill who was trying to tell the referee.
He was trying to tap. He was trying to tap.
He was trying to tap, and he even told the referee that, listen, my arm is broken, get it back.
Yeah.
And the referee, who's apparently a BJJ black belt, just didn't give in. And it had to take a few elbows on a Hill's face by Craig to actually stop that. I just felt it was a little too late. I think the referee needs to hear something out.
The thing is that, refereeing is also a tough job, man.
It is.
And in the heat of the moment, you can't tell. I mean, like, of course, you've got guys in the past like Mario Yamasaki and Yves Levine who've also made... Yves Levine has made incredibly stupid mistakes also. Like the guy is unconscious and the guillotine. I remember seeing this somewhere in Bellator. Yeah. And it was hilarious because the guillotine had finished. The guy was unconscious.
Can you ask your girlfriends not to call you, please? Because the phone is vibrating.
I know. I can't help it. It's a working day.
Yeah.
God, it make me sound like a hooker.
and you're getting a jawline, so
it's sick, dude. It's sick. No, but coming back, we keep talking about referees, and fine, referees make mistakes. But the thing is that Craig, of course, the way he transitioned from arm bars to triangles it's just, he reminds me of old school Verdum, where where guys used to be scared to go to the ground with Verdum.
And he's a big guy in that weight category. He's big,
huge, man. He looks like a fucking Viking.
Yeah. Like that Prohashka kind of look, to himself.
Exactly. Yuri Prohashka is tough. But Yuri Prohashka is clearly is Goro from Mortal Kombat. He's a Mortal Kombat fighter.
Well, speaking of Mortal Kombat, I think our champion walked out like a Mortal Kombat character this time. Yeah, he did.
Raiden. Straight. The headgear, the mouth mask, and he walked out to Somewhere I Belong by Linkin Park. One of the
that's crazy.
Best songs.
But before we get to that fight, I would definitely want to get to the welterweights, which is Bilal Muhammad versus Damian Maya, which was an excellent fight, but that will come in round 2. The welterweight, let's talk about the second welterweight fight, which is Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz, old guard versus new guard, which is the next segment, but we cannot not talk about Nate Diaz.
I mean, look, man, I don't want to give away, whoever's seen the fight knows what happened, but I'll preface this entire conversation by saying props to both guys, because Leon is the next generation. You can see it. Remember, Somesh, you remember what when Matt Hughes faced GSP for the first time. Right. And in the last second, he submitted him by armbar. The first time.
Yes.
And in the post-fight interview, he said, even though I won, GSP is the future.
Correct.
GSP is the future. He is the next generation already. Because of the way he moves, the way he trains, the different mindset, the strategy, the game plan. And we saw that with somebody like Leon. He didn't get baited into Nate Diaz's world.
Well, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, in the press conference, Nate Diaz, while he was smoking his joint, also said, that this situation is very similar to what happened with GSP. And I think Edwards is the future. Did he say something on those lines, or we didn't understand?
He must have, man. I mean, firstly, you need a translator for Nate Diaz.
Yeah, even though he's speaking English.
Even though he's speaking perfect.
Like English to English translator.
Yeah, man. You need English to English translator. You need a Stockton translator. 209 from the 209 region. You need someone there. No, but it's even though that's the bigness of Nate. Like he knows where to give credit. He knows when he's been bested. But it's one of those situations where I didn't want to say this on the official broadcast yesterday because we've got rules there. Leon, even in victory, he has lost points in the title picture. I feel he has lost points in the title picture.
For sure.
He was being groomed to be, he's already number 3. He was being groomed to fight the winner of Colby versus Usman.
Right.
And I think if I was Dana White right now, I'll be like, okay.
Well,
Like,
it's such a sad world because when you dominate someone for 24 minutes out of 25, and that last 1 minute you get rocked, it takes away so many brownie points of your career. I actually begin to feel that, when people look to get to perfection, they are really aiming at being spick and span. You cannot even drop your guard for that split second, because someone like a Nate Diaz will get on the Stockton slap. He will, he will catch you with that cross. He is going to catch you with that cross.
He got lucky. Leon got so lucky. Had there been 2 minutes more in that round,
it was over.
It was over. We would have seen Nate win.
Yeah.
And Nate, the thing is, Nate Diaz is, the Nick and Nate, the brothers, the Diaz brothers, they do triathlons for fun.
Yeah.
For fun. That's their idea of fun.
Yeah.
They do triathlons. And triathletes are some of the hardest people in the world.
Absolutely.
The cardio and conditioning are on a different planet.
Man, these guys
they
are
take
not
5 rounds. They take 25 minutes to warm up.
Right. And and in fact, Dana White was very quick to mention that the next time he gets Nate Diaz, he's going to request him for a 6-round fight because he possibly takes 5 rounds just to warm up.
No, the fight clock should start after Nate Diaz starts bleeding, because that's when he's in a fight. Until he's like cut up and the scar tissue gets cut up open again, he doesn't really start working then.
Yeah.
After he starts bleeding, then he's like, he'll smile, raise his hands up, show the finger, all that shit starts.
Oh man,
it was incredible.
And the good part is what? That the Diaz is very, very clear. He's like, I'm not going to retire anytime soon. So, I'm here to hang. And I love that attitude, because this dude is about, 36, 37 years old. Yeah. Leon is 28, 29. He's clearly not in his prime, but he's still the fan favorite. I mean, at the press conference, I think he didn't even speak like 8 words. And the cheers that the Diaz brothers get is next level.
Did you hear he walked out at Tupac, and crowd went mad with the Diaz. And the minute Leon walked out, the boos. I don't understand why he gets hit. I really don't understand why he gets hit.
Well, he's an extremely good, he's an extremely good fighter. MMA fighter, but
we'll
something
get to
like
that second. That's saved for after the break. I'm telling you, because there's a whole sector there. But after the break, we've got a couple of things to talk about still, man. We've got to move on to the co-main event, which was the flyweight title belt between the ultra dangerous, hang on, let me say this the proper way, Dios de Guerra, which is the god of war.
Yeah.
And Davison Figueiredo, who's one of the scariest men in that division. Scariest men, I mean, he's scary for a lot of people. You look at him and you will get scared.
Well,
you will be stupid not to get scared.
For those who don't know, the category of flyweights is basically the 125-pound category, which means technically on the scale, they are about 57 kgs.
Yeah.
But when these guys come to fight, they are easily 140, 145.
No, dude, it's not Moreno, only Figueiredo.
Only Figueiredo.
Or Figueiredo weighs 75 kilos that night. 75 kilos. From 55 kilos, he's come to 75 easy. Easy. I'm not even, there's no doubt in my mind. I want to see a weighing scale.
Yeah.
You stand there, you put a weighing scale at the cage. One weighing scale, I want to see stand. But he looked a lot slimmer yesterday. I think
he did.
He had we talk about this all the time, over and over and over again. Your fighters in the past used to use an advantage of, rehydrating via IVs.
Correct.
And the IV ban has led to a lot of fighters fighting in their home weight classes.
Which is actually healthy for them.
Very healthy. So they can't use those advantages. But Figueiredo is killing himself to get to flyweight.
Yes. In fact, he's missed weight a lot of times in the past. And, to get down to that 125-pound division, and in the championship fights, you have no leeway. So, which means you have to weigh 125 or lesser, not even 125.5.
At the weigh-ins, we saw him. There was a bit of a scuffle, and he pushed him. And Moreno's a light guy. And Figueiredo is a huge guy. And the way he pushed him, it looked like underpowered,
Correct.
It was not the Govinda ka dhakka.
Correct.
Govinda ka dhakka is another level.
Correct.
तो Francis Ngannou भी उड़ के जाएगा वो धक्का.
Well, if we give that to the Khatia also actually dhadka quite fast.
Kelvin Cutter को लग गया ना. No, but coming back to the fight, I mean, it was, the sport of MMA is, most people think it's a blood sport and it's brutal and it's a sport full of savages. But once in a while, they come these amazing Cinderella man stories.
Correct.
Where you see an athlete from Mexico, from a poor background, who was, like Somesh said yesterday, who was overweight, who was trained to be a lawyer, whose mother sent him to do MMA, and has fulfilled a lifelong dream coming from a small place in Tijuana to come to win the belt. And Somesh, I was crying when I saw him, his reaction.
No, absolutely. Because this guy is so genuine. He is so genuine,
and such a sweet guy.
He's such a sweet guy. I think we need to set up a fight between Moreno and Wonderboy for the nicest motherfucker.
Yeah, no. Wonderboy is still, he's a sweet looking guy, but he is like, thoda sa, can be a little cutter.
Yeah.
Like Moreno is literally smiles up until the bell rings. Then he becomes serious. And he's the nicest guy. And he's like a kid who loves Lego and his toys and he collects some stuff like this. And the way the raw emotion that you saw even Joe Rogan tearing up, man.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help it. I couldn't help but feel that passion. Is he deserving of that belt?
He's so genuine.
More deserving.
He's so genuine. And in fact, he's one of the few guys who openly said that if our fighters train in our own country, they can still do well. They don't need to move to the US or to Thailand or to Russia or somewhere. He's a chap who's come from a small gym called Entran Gym, which actually he enrolled to lose weight. And post that, when he got hooked onto the sport, he said, I'm going to leave my law studies and I'm going to do this full time. And that says a lot because he's in Tijuana. He's based there. He trains there. He's lived there. He studied there, everything of that sort, so he's not transitioned to like a developed nation and, this high tech, technology and coaching and all of that. He's done his bit from his part of the world. He was cut by the UFC in 2018. He came back 2019 and man, 2021, he's the champion.
Now it's, you guys, when we are going to see a snippet of this on social media, we're going to show you a picture of Moreno gripping that belt.
Oh man,
and it's
heartwarming.
If you do not feel anything, seriously, then you are dead inside.
Then just f*** off, basically.
Then f*** off. Yeah. Seriously. No, man, it's very rare to see that. If you look at the moments in history where you've seen champions do that, iconically, when GSP when GSP beat Matt Hughes, who was one of the best champions in the world in that division, welterweight, and had a winning streak, had 6-fight winning streak, 6 defenses, and finally GSP beat him. It was an emotional moment.
It
was when Anderson Silva won the belt for the first time against Rich Franklin. It was an incredible moment. But for Moreno, and look at how the stories are, man. GSP was a garbage man who worked his ass up. Anderson Silva grew up in the favelas of Brazil from absolute poverty, came to his wife and to America when he was living in a small apartment and showed his wife a bungalow saying, tomorrow, one day, this will be our home.
No, but can you say that in his voice? That tomorrow this will be our home.
No, I got my voice today. It's possible. I can't do it. My voice is gone today. I'll do it another day, I promise. But no, it's these stories of raw emotion where these guys trained in their home countries, worked so hard, came up the right way. And guys like Moreno, Silva, GSP, a lot. And we'll come to the old guard when we talk about that. But it's such a... It's heartwarming. It's really, and I cannot think of a more deserving a champion.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
I cannot.
But that division is wide open because at one point of time, if I'm not mistaken, 3 or 4 years back, Dana White was thinking of stopping that division completely. When Mighty Mouse actually exited the UFC, there was nobody out there. But then came Henry Cejudo. Then there are talks of Cody Garbrandt going down, and now we have Figueiredo and someone like Moreno. So I personally think that's one of the most exciting divisions in the UFC at the moment.
And the skill level, dude. The skill level of Moreno, those combinations that he landed, he stifled the champion. And at that division, Davison Figueiredo, who has easily got like lights out knockout power. Like you normally don't see the power. The lighter the weight you go, you see better technique, you see better skill.
You see speed,
you see incredible speed, but you don't see switch your lights off, good night knockout power. And that's what the champion had.
Correct. So it's crazy because we need to get to the old guard versus the new guard in the next segment. But that gets us to the main event of the evening.
Sir.
In the middleweight division, which is 185 pounds between the champion Israel Adesanya and the Italian Dream Marvin Vettori. So, I was happy and sad at the same time because yes, I was happy that Adesanya won the fight.
Yeah.
But I was sad in the way he won the fight because when there's a champion out there who has beaten someone like Robert Whittaker, who has put out Paulo Costa, and he could not dispatch the Italian dream.
Look, man, Sumesh, we've seen this trend in all the great champions.
Yeah.
We saw it with Silva. Silva had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 knockouts, and then suddenly against guys like Patrick Cote, Damian Maia.
Decision.
Where we saw where I was getting frustrated saying the disparity in talent is visible.
Yeah.
Like, you are here and he's here. And why can't you finish him?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we saw the same thing with GSP for years, man. He used to dominate these guys. He couldn't do it. John Jones stopped finishing people. Like, you know how brutal he is.
Correct.
He used to switch people's lights off. If he got you in the clinch, man, you were dead. What happened to these guys?
A lot of people have in fact written to me on Instagram and Twitter saying that, is it the fact that the champion doesn't want to finish them and wants to kind of, hurt them over 25 minutes? Could that be a strategy, or is that too risky at this stage of life?
I mean, the thing is with the UFC, you're already dealing with some ridiculous top level competition.
Right.
I mean, say what you want about Marvin Vettori. He's still there. He's
Absolutely.
Still the number one contender. He's still coming after you. And he's still tough. And he proved he's tough as nails, man. He ate some 300 leg kicks.
Yeah.
And he wasn't limping. And Izzy kicks hard.
Yeah, man. It's like a baseball bat coming towards your leg.
Is the thud. The slap means the foot is hitting you.
Yeah.
The thud is the hard part.
Is the shin.
Is the shin slamming against muscle and tissue and sinew. And it does devastating damage inside and outside. And we saw how that fight went. Marvin Vettori had a tough chance to begin with. We knew that.
Yeah.
Because Izzy, the way his movement is, his in and out, his fluidity, and his takedown defense is one of the best in that division.
Correct.
So it was a tough fight to begin with. And things like that can be frustrating because you saw the frustration on his face, Somesh.
Yeah.
He was getting irritated and pissed off because Marvin was holding him against the cage.
Right. But he couldn't do anything beyond that. He could not do anything beyond that.
He couldn't.
But also there was one very important aspect that I noticed, that between rounds when Rafael Cordero, Marvin Vettori's coach, was talking to him and saying,
legendary coach, right?
That you're losing this round. You're losing this round. You're losing the round. And at the end of round 4, he said, you're losing the fight. We need to finish it off.
Yes, I remember that.
And somehow Marvin Vettori just could not turn the engine on, one, or second, he just didn't believe that he was losing the fight, because even after the fight, he was in disbelief that he lost.
Yeah, it's, we talk about delusion sometimes. Delusion can be positive and negative.
Correct.
And if you're deluded to a point where you're going to beat a guy, you'll do it. You think you're better than somebody, you might be.
Yeah.
And that can get you victory. But more often than not, delusion is what it is delusion. You will lose. And he thought he won the first fight. Yes, the first fight was close. But this time, I'm sorry, not even kind of sort of close.
Honestly, I was surprised it was, 50-45 across all the judges.
I would have expected it to be about 49-47.
No, I was in fact thinking that it was so clear that honestly, some round may have even been a 10-8. It was... It was just all Izzy out there, and especially with the takedown defenses, because I think he just got one, but Izzy sprang straight back up.
That's the round that I would have said that might have been a draw. So I would have said 50-49 or 49-48, depending on that round.
No, it was a clear 50-45 for me. It was a clear 50-45.
I have no argument with the 50-45. It's absolutely right. I mean, It was a shutout by the champion.
But again, like having said that, it was quite surprising that Israel Adesanya, who's known to be a finisher in the game, could not finish maybe one of the lowest rank opponents that he's fought in the last couple of years. But
it happens, man.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
Silva Patrick Cote. It happened. It also is a function of if you come to fight.
Correct.
And Vettori, and let's not discredit the fact that Vettori has a solid chin, dude.
Oh, man.
He got smacked. He took head kicks to the head.
It was crazy. It was crazy. But also, at some level, I felt because Adesanya was talking about facing Robert Whittaker next, maybe he was just looking to get through this fight to actually face his real competition.
Very possible. Very possible.
Because there are times where, the fighters who are so smart, they kind of don't drain themselves or don't overtrain themselves for a particular fight because they know they'll get through it. And they focus on the bigger challenges in life, So
exactly. And
it could be that also.
We saw that. We saw Israel Adesanya had no respect for Vettori's striking. Zero respect.
Yeah.
Like not even an ounce of respect for his striking. So
he was going back. He was waiting on the cage.
Dude, shades of Anderson Silva. The way he did his head movement.
He was slipping. He was ducking. And honestly, I think Vettori hardly connected maybe 30-40% of his shots, maybe lesser.
I want to see the fight metric stats because that'll be interesting to see. But Marvin is a tough guy. He's going to go back home and figure it out. Maybe he needs, but we spoke about this yesterday where a coach whose fighter doesn't listen to them. It's like after the first round when Rafael Cordeiro said you lost that round, Marvin didn't like it at all.
Yes, he did.
And I'm like, okay, that's weird. Why won't you listen to one of the most legendary coaches that has made champions? I would want a Rafael Cordeiro in my corner in a championship fight.
Absolutely, yes.
He's going to tell you what to do.
In fact, he's going to give you a real picture of what's happening.
Exactly. And reality is so important to have in a situation like that. Like, dude, you're losing it. Put on the pressure. Step on the pedal. If you're losing anyway, how does it matter? Go for broke.
Man,
no?
That's crazy.
And so, that is
the stats are in front of me. He's got 33%.
Oh my God.
Accuracy, which is quite low. So it's about 58 strikes out of 176. Adesanya, on the other hand, is 96 strikes out of 181, which is about a 53% strike rate.
But it's also volume. The more volume you throw, and it happens. But on that note, we're going to be talking about how the old school fighters did it against the new school fighters. When we quickly come back from a commercial break, you're listening to Mystic Chips and the Superhuman Kamra, only on IVM Podcast on The Fighting Goat. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank the sponsor on the network this week, Credencia. Thank you so much for making this possible. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus was joined by actress Shreya Pilgaonkar to talk about her career in acting. On Begin the Journey, Ashish Vidyarthi lists down the modern concepts of friendship and how one can choose the right friend circle in life on Begin the Journey. On The Habit Coach, Ashton Doctor was joined by Aisha Bilamoria to talk about running and developing an athletic mentality. Farhad and Sunethra are joined by LGBTQ workplace advocate Suresh Ramdas to discuss the new normal in queer relationships on KBCD. On Tere Mere Raaste, Keshav Chaturvedi takes us to the riverbanks of Banaras and describes the soulful mornings to us. And finally, on the Positively Unlimited podcast, Chetna Chakravarti takes the fear out of the word responsibility. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Fighting Goat, episode 16, where we're talking about UFC 263, the old guard versus the new guard, and a lot more what's coming in the following week. So we've done a lot. I've taken my coffee break. I've had some good amount of water, and let us get down to the old guard.
Is drinking. This is why I say I'm old guard. I'm drinking. Old guard drinks. New guard drinks coffee.
Yeah.
But man, it's
a great mahal here in the IVM studio, so I don't blame you for picking up the glass of vodka.
Gin,
or rum or gin. Oh yeah,
gin.
Yeah. Don't mention the gin because they're not paying us right now.
Exactly. No, but it's so funny when we constantly, Somesh and I both are very, very, I think we're very biased towards the old guard. Because we come from that, we grew up with MMA when it started, literally, from the old Pride days. And when we saw the fights between Damian Maia and, we'll start with Damian Maia and Belal Muhammad, where we saw, can you imagine, Somesh, Damian Maia,
a 32-year-old versus a 43-year-old, basically.
Yeah, 43-year-old, sorry.
Yeah.
43-year-old is 43 years old. Can you imagine he faced off against Anderson Silva 12 years ago?
In 2010, can you imagine
11
that?
11 years ago. In 2010, he fought Silva for the belt then.
And that was in 185 pounds in the middleweight category.
And middleweight. And then he dropped to welterweight so that he could have a size advantage. And I think it's, he's so set in his ways at this point. We saw that become clear because Belal Muhammad knew he was not a threat on the feet. And he knew obviously he didn't have to worry about Damian Maia's power. Because has Damian Maia stopped anybody via strikes ever?
I cannot recollect.
Not at least for the last 20 years.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean,
maybe bachpan mein mara hoga kisi ko.
Yeah, I cannot recollect. But, but the other important stat is that after fighting for the championship belt, which he lost versus Silva in 2010, he also faced against Tyron Woodley for the welterweight championship.
Oh, that's true.
In 2017, which again he lost.
Yeah.
So this guy's a legit fellow who has,
he's a legend, man.
When we speak of old guard, the time when Mystic Chips and me started watching MMA was precisely when they used to do Kimuras and Americanas, which we don't even see anymore.
Where are the Americanas, man? Where are the Kimuras? I think the last time I saw a proper Americana was Jones versus Belfort, where Jones yanked his arm.
Oh, he did?
Other side.
Yeah.
Don't you remember when in the fourth round, when Jones was just pounding on Belfort and then he just landed, he got that Americana.
Oh man, I cannot recollect, but I mean, I've not seen it in a very long time. I've not seen it in a very, very long time.
That was, I think literally that was the last time I saw an Americana. And a Kimura, man, if you want to see what a Kimura is, you want to see the master doing Kimuras, please Google Frank Mir versus Rodrigo Nogueira.
Oh man, that was lethal. That was lethal.
God.
Someone who can really switch between an Americana and a Kimura is someone like Fedor, who's so slick between his submissions.
Slide his arm like that.
Slides
quickly. And it doesn't matter. I mean, it's pure technique and leverage the way he used it. Not to mention, Fedor was retardedly strong.
He was, yeah.
He was so strong and fast as hell. He had welterweight speed at 230 pounds.
He was unbelievable.
He was
unbelievable.
And when you talk about Damian Maia, and he had such beautiful submissions, he used to transition so well.
Right.
We saw the new guard figure it out. We really did.
In fact, the new style of coaching is so scientific that sometimes you can actually predict and read your opponent. So if you saw, there was no setup to the single leg takedown. There was absolutely no setup to it.
No.
He was just throwing his left and going straight for the leg.
Correct.
And Belal Muhammad being so strong and from Rufo Sport,
and the balance,
which has a great coaching team. I think he tried for the single leg about 18, 19 times.
I think there were some 30 attempts. 20 attempts. Yeah.
20 attempts. And out of which he got only one. But there were so many times where he could use a leg sweep and take the other leg out of Belal, but it just didn't happen. Something like Khabib. Khabib does that really well.
Khabib has beautiful trips. Khabib's double is so strong. Khabib's double is so strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we spoke about the fact, there are wrestlers and then there are grapplers.
Correct.
Grapplers are, once you are on the ground, you're screwed with a grappler.
Correct.
But wrestlers know how to shoot. They have point of entry. They have angles of entry. Am I going to be Greco-Roman? Am I going to use a Greco-Roman trip? Am I going to use a single leg? Am I going to use a double leg? Am I going to use a leg drag?
Right.
What am I going to do? Am I going to use a sweep? But BJJ guys also have sweeps from the top. Like remember Lyoto Machida? Man, the leg sweeps from the clinch.
Yeah.
They were insane. He was so good.
But at some level, I feel you need to start adapting to the game. But this time what normally happens is when you're 43 and you have one last fight on your contract, maybe you aren't even training that hard.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, maybe you just want to give this one last shot, take your $100,000, whatever, and just...
He's 43, man.
Become a yoga teacher in Bali, as you said.
Charlie, don't say that. Yeah, Damian Maia can still kick all our asses.
Together.
No, I mean, I think, it's time for him to ride off into the sunset. He's a great fighter.
Yeah.
He's had some amazing moments in that cage. And if this is his last fight, which I think it is, because I don't see the UFC, really renewing somebody's contract at 44. 43,
right.
44.
Right. Unless you're Anderson Silva, but
or Yoel Romero, who is 90 actually, and it looks like he's 35.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But then you move on to somebody like Leon Edwards, who is this incredible number 3 ranked welterweight, who is he's been on the cusp of a title shot for 2 years now. And has been incredible. And you saw that performance that he put on But then you have that wild card of the old guard, Nate Diaz.
Diaz,
who is the Ultimate Fighter alumni from the season 1, which gave rise to legends like Diego Sanchez, which gave rise to Chris Lieben.
But was he season 1 or was he season 5? I am not too sure.
Season 1 was Stephen Bonner and
so he is
season
he's
2.
He's Ultimate Fighter season 5.
He's season 5?
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. So that's a big mistake. It just, it's that era of fighters.
But you know what?
He actually Chris Lieben and Diego Sanchez as well, right?
He seems like somebody who's been there since season 1. I absolutely don't blame you, because even I thought that he's from season 1 or 2, but I just checked up on it and it's season 5.
Oh.
However, he's the winner of season 5.
He is. He won season 5, but you saw his ability from before that.
But you know what? Diaz is the kind of guy that he wasn't there in season 1 or 2, but I would say he's still the winner of season 1 and 2 both.
Yeah, combined. And believe me, if the fight was under Pride rules, he has beaten Leon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if Pride used to be crowd cheering, if the crowd thought you were great, you won. And Nate has won. When they announced the winner by unanimous decision, Leon Edwards, and the crowd is cheering when Nate Diaz puts his hands up.
That just shows that how the old guard really didn't care about PR activities and stunts and clothes.
They don't give a shit.
This guy came to the press conference with a joint in his hand, and there was, it was not just a joint; he was smoking it. Yeah, at that point of time, he was smoking it.
Dude, he was high.
And someone from the UFC actually said that, listen, I think Nate, can you just put that aside? And he turned around and said, "It's legal, bro."
Exactly, it's legal.
Arizona, it's legal. So this guy just does what he wants.
They should just decriminalize weed anyway.
Absolutely.
Weed has done nothing bad.
Globally.
Have you ever heard of a carjacking by somebody high on weed? Never. No. The max they'll do is break open your car, steal your chips, and go away.
Max, yeah.
They might sleep in the car also.
Yeah.
And wake up the next morning and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
You get crackheads and potheads, crackheads and drunkards who do way worse. So
absolutely.
If anything, weed makes people happier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And anyway, that final minute, I think Leon might have been a little tired from hitting Nate, because, you can get a very demotivated, because when somebody takes your best shot and smiles back at you saying, "Haha, that didn't hurt."
Yeah.
And you're like, what the hell? What the hell are you made of?
You're demotivated. You're completely
demotivated, man. You will want to give up. And Leon was looking to cruise in that last round. Yeah. And that one momentary slip of concentration, and Diaz cracked him with that left.
He cracked. Yeah. In fact, I was seeing the similarity. I was seeing the similarity between the Usman and Masvidal fight of how he slapped the hand in front and he followed up with the cross.
Exactly.
And it looks so similar. And I'm like, man, if this guy just had one more minute, it would have been the biggest upset of 2021. 30
more seconds or whatever. Leon was on Fleet Street. He was gone. It was an earthquake happening under his legs because he couldn't find his footing anymore.
Yeah.
He fell down a bunch of times and the crowd erupted. That just showed, that's what we talk when old guard has such a significant place in our hearts.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for them, none of this would happen.
Absolutely, yes.
None of this would have happened.
And some of these guys just put on such a show, and because they are themselves, they're so real. Yeah. The fans, the audience, the promotion just back them up because they know, if this guy wants to smoke a joint, he's going to smoke a joint. If he doesn't want to talk, he'll not talk.
Yeah.
So
Conor McGregor, for that matter, man.
It's so real. It's just so real.
I would totally call Conor McGregor old guard. Even though he's not old guard, he's relatively new. In that sense, he's only been around for 10 years. But I would say his mentality is old guard.
But you know what the thing is? His fighting mentality, yes, but I feel
only his fighting mentality. I
still feel he's a big PR stunt by himself. Sometimes he's a good guy with Dustin Poirier. Sometimes he's a drunk guy with Khabib. Sometimes he's on top of his mind with somebody else. But Diaz, man, I think it was John Morgan that asked him, Nate, you've not even spoken 5 words, but everybody cheers for you. And he just looked and he said that, when there's such a good show going on here, why should I waste my energy?
Exactly.
That is something that's coming from the heart. You don't even care that, if the people like you or don't like you. It's just that give a kind of attitude. Love that.
Do you remember the time when guys like, Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture used to fight?
Yeah.
And people never gave a crap who won or who lost. They cheered them both. they cheered them both. Pride, nobody gave a crap who won and lost. Nobody cared about records.
Nobody cared.
Nobody cared about records and legacies and, should I, pause in minute 1.5 to put that toe into his butt or whatever. My point is that it's, the old guard they threw caution to the wind. They went there to put on a show. And that's what it really is, a show.
Very true. Very true.
I mean, I think, at the end of the day, the UFC is any sport for that matter. Whether you call it, when it's football or, we were talking to our producer, Surohini, when we were talking about football.
Yeah.
And you see, why do people cheer on the people who are exciting?
Yeah.
Why do people cheer on the people who take risks, who take anything?
Yeah.
Because they're there they literally play for the fans.
But, at some level, you also need to be a character. You need to have that little bit of zing. Someone like,
and
I don't
Chuck
know.
didn't have a lot of character, but Chuck was loved by all. Chuck Liddell he came in there and he made no excuses. He never said, I had a bad weight cut. I didn't eat properly. I was drunk. They never cared.
Well, in fact, he was one of the few guys who actually used to drink beer. He actually had a pot belly with a 6-pack.
Exactly. Pot belly with a 6-pack. That's the right input. You could see his style and his hate used to come out and his hands moving like this by his waist. But don't get me wrong, man. He's an old school badass. He will knock your senses out.
Well,
with that left-right hook combination. That's like Rampage Jackson, man. Rampage would go crazy. He would go crazy sniffing around reporters.
Yeah.
If you remember. Asian reporters in Pride.
Yeah, that's crazy. But that gets us to the third and the last fight of the old guard versus new guard. Brandon Moreno, 27, and Figueiredo, mid-30s.
Yeah. I mean,
man,
this guy's also, man. It's, he'll take your head off and not make complaints about it.
Correct.
The sportsmanship that you see from an old guard
is something else. It's something else.
It's like he helped him, picked him up. Moreno was crying, howling.
Yeah.
And he hugged him and he picked him up and he raised his hand. How many of the new guard do you see that, man?
Well, in fact, you mentioned such a good
Marvin
point.
Vettori, he was
exactly. In the same card, UFC 263, we had a co-main event where we had the old guard versus new guard. But the main event was a new guard versus new guard. And the attitude was so different. The entire approach to the game. See, Figueiredo obviously said a lot of mean things about Moreno. I absolutely
that's just
agree.
in the pre-fight hype, man. That's a hype.
But,
that's
once the contest is over, at the end of the day, you are two humans, you are two fighters, you're competing in the same promotion. You must let all of that go. And when you said about Conor McGregor, I love the fact because the entire build-up to the Nate Diaz fight was heated. It was, they were throwing Monster Energy cans on each other and stuff like that.
They were throwing shit and they almost got into scuffles. They were like, each team wanted to fight each team.
Yeah, but once the contest ended and he had choked out McGregor and it was over, these guys hugged it out. They said, listen, great contest, all of that. Nick Diaz was there. They all met together. They possibly must have had a proper 12 post that. But you just let those emotions go and you need to be human again. Yeah. And that's what we can learn. And that's what I love about the old guard. And the new guys don't have it. Look at Marvin Vettori. He clearly lost.
That was just a sore loser.
He sulked and he just went out of there.
No, the delusion is that he thought he won. After 5 rounds.
Well,
he'll have to, I honestly hope.
Like Sugar Sean O'Malley is still unbeaten.
Your favorite fighter, man. Your favorite fighter.
The Blondie was there.
Blondie was sitting there. He had a joint of his own, but nobody cared about his joint. Everybody was focused on. You saw the difference, like when in the camera. So in the sporting events, they point out to all the sports celebrities that sit in the audience. They show Francis Ngannou, crowd goes ah.
Yeah, they're crazy.
They show Sugar Sean O'Malley, crowd goes boo.
Yeah.
They show Nick Diaz, the crowd goes mad. They show somebody else, they go boo.
Yeah,
so all the old school guys, yay. The school guys, हाँ चल जाने.
जो भी
हो गया. Triple C, boo.
Yeah.
But I love Triple C. He's a character for sure.
Yeah.
He can fight. But that, my friend, brings us to the end of our segment. We will always love, the sport is always ever evolving. And today's new guard is tomorrow's old guard, So things might change. Let's hope. But we never forget the legends that got this sport started. Absolutely. And that being said, let's quickly take a commercial break before we introduce you to next week's fight cards. We've got some great fights coming up. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
Come learn and experience the ABCDs of being queer with me, Shunetro,
and me, Farhad,
on our show Gay BCD.
The two of us take you through our stories and experiences of being gay men in the city of Mumbai and have candid
and sometimes downright scandalous
conversations about sexuality, gay culture, and everything in between.
Catch new episodes of Gay BCD every Tuesday on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get all your podcasts from.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the next segment of The Fighting Goat, episode 16, where we're going to be making our predictions. So,
Mr. Kamra, before we start with the predictions,
how did last week go?
Last week we went dead even. None of us won, sadly.
Yeah, we were on the same page.
We were on the same page. And we were all wrong also. Huh? Apart from one fight, we were all wrong. But it's before we get into our prediction segment, we have to tell you that our producers have told us some great news. We've got our apparel and our trinkets coming. So stay tuned. Follow us on our social media because you're going to see it. Follow us on our social media because you're going to get a chance to win these prizes.
Yes.
Literally.
I think that what we have is a very, very cool Fighting Goat fridge magnet that's going to be up for grabs.
Yes.
So stay tuned on Mystic Chip's handle, Somesh Kamra's handle, the Fighting Goat's handle, and IVM Podcast and get a chance to win these really cool fridge magnets for free.
Yes, sir. Okay. Now, quickly, Somesh, we're running out of time. We need to talk about next week's fight card. We've got Dan Ige taking on the Korean Zombie.
Oh, man.
Chansan Jung.
That's in the featherweight division in the 145 pounds.
Yes,
in
sir.
the heavyweight division, we've got Alexei Olenek taking on 27-year-old, basically his grandson, Sergey Spivak.
But they kind of look similar, though. I think these Serbians and Czech guys, I think after, a 27 and a 67-year-old look the same.
Yeah,
literally,
absolutely.
because they just really look the same.
Yeah, some of the Parsi genes in them. So,
yeah, correct.
And the third fight that we can predict is in the welterweight division between Matt Brown and Diego Lima. So let's start in the welterweight division. The main card starts with Matt Brown and Diego Lima.
Okay,
so
I'm a big Matt Brown fan. I really am. I really, really am. But we've seen him fade over the years. We saw his last fight with Carlos Condit it was okay. But there are two legends battling it out. But I think there's only so much you can take in the fight game. And he's been a warrior for so long. I think Diego Lima takes this one.
Okay, very interesting. So Team Chips is going for Diego Lima. Team Kamra is going to go for...
But I'd love to be wrong, by the way. I'd love to be wrong in this one.
Okay, but I'm going to be going for Matt Brown.
Yes,
so
sir.
After a very long time, we are on opposite sides. It's Matt Brown for Team Kamra and Diego Lima for Team Chips. Let's go on to the co-main event of the evening in the heavyweight division with Alexei Olenek and Sergey Spivak.
Oh, it's tough. Alexei Olenek is a very, very tough man. He's very strong. He's got a great chin. He can take strikes.
Yeah.
But it's... You know what, Chalo? We've sided so much with the old guard, and the old guard seldom lets us down. So I'm going to go with the granddaddy, Olenek.
Okay, that's awesome. So Team Chips is going for Alexei Olenek, and Team Kamra is also going to go for the old guard, Alexei Olenek, because I think he's got more tools than Spivak.
On the ground, he's
and I also feel he's way more durable. So
yes, he is. He can take some shots.
That's going to be a good one. And for the main event of the evening in the featherweight division, there's the Korean Zombie versus Dan Ige. Team Chips.
The thing is, you can't count out either guy. But no, I'm going Korean Zombie, man.
No, you know what? You're cheating because you told me Dan Ige yesterday.
I said I will make my final decision later. I was on the fence.
Okay, that's a very strong fence to hold a 115-pound dude. Strong, muscular dude. So, you know what? I'm going to be sticking to my original prediction. I think the Korean Zombie takes this one.
Me too. I honestly think it's going to be a good war and it'll sway in Zombie's favor.
That's awesome. That's great. So yes, you have the predictions out, but you guys can make your predictions, tag us, hashtag us, and get a chance to win some exciting fridge magnets from the Fighting Goat. Until next time, it's Team Chips, Team Kamra, and the IVM studio that's going to see you same time, same place next week with another exciting event and more bakchodi to come your way.
Absolutely. But before we forget, please follow us on social media. My Instagram handle is Arjun_Chipalkatti. And my Twitter handle is @MysticChipal. Go Somesh.
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram, Somesh.Kamra, and on Twitter, Somesh_Kamra. Don't forget to follow IVM Podcast on all social media. And again, get a chance to win some exciting merchandise from us. Catch up on some new shows.
Yes,
a lot of exciting content on IVMPodcast.com. And if you don't want to tune in, then you're a sore loser.
No, guys. No matter what, tune into all the shows on IVMPodcast.com. Catch us on Spotify, catch us on Ghana, catch us basically we're everywhere. Turn around and you will find Chips and Kamra on The Fighting Goat.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening to us. We will catch you on the next episode where we might have a surprise guest. This is me, Arjun, the Mystic Chips, saying goodbye along with my buddy, Somesh Superhuman Kamra. We will see you on the next episode of The Fighting Goat. Sayonara.
We live in an age of disruption, of immense change in every aspect of work, life, and business. But is the old way of doing things truly dead? And are we ever going to stop saying the new normal? Join me, Varun Dugirala, on Advertising is Dead every Tuesday as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, creators, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond to dig a little deeper into how we got here, what we're doing now, and where we're headed. You can catch all the episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from.
From uncensored and unfiltered chats with the who's who of the entertainment industry, I, Siddharth Kannan, bring you a very hardcore chat show called Candid Kannan. Tune in every Friday on the IVM Podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts.